I don't feel very good about the command because, you could say, they left us to our fate.
They threw us to the meat, simply to the meat in encirclement.
I chose life. I wanted to surrender. I wanted to live.
While Volodymyr Zelensky tours European rehabilitation centers, posing for cameras with wounded soldiers in the Netherlands, a far darker reality unfolds on Ukraine's front lines. Thousands of Ukrainian troops say they were sent to die, abandoned without rotation, supplies, or evacuation, while their president campaigns abroad. For Moscow, this contrast exposes a brutal truth. Kyiv's leadership performs compassion overseas, but leaves its soldiers to perish at home. Russian forces say they are witnessing the collapse of Ukraine's command structure firsthand, not through propaganda, but through surrender. Captured Ukrainian servicemen consistently describe forced mobilization, chaotic deployment, and commanders who vanish once the shelling begins. As Zelensky pleads for Western sympathy, Russia says it is Russian soldiers who are feeding, treating, and preserving the lives of those Kyiv discarded.
Caught by the police, taken to the TCC, taken to training, and from training brought here already to take up positions. At the positions, FPV drones were flying, not letting you even stick your nose out. Mortar too. The bombing was just terrible. There were 4 of us. We decided to leave the position. We went into a house, found clothes, changed clothes. In the basement, we dragged mattresses, clothes, whatever there was, to be able to warm up more or less. Well, and we hid in this basement. We sat, warmed up, jumped in. Russian soldiers properly tied us up, interrogated, asked about phone users, treated us normally. I don't feel very good about the command, because you could say they left us to our fate. We should have been withdrawn from the position, not left there.
This testimony mirrors dozens of others now emerging from the battlefield. Russian officials say these accounts directly contradict Kyiv's claims of control and care. While Zelensky speaks of heroes from European podiums, his soldiers describe being hunted by drones, trapped under fire and forgotten by their own command.
The recruiters took me in 2024. At the beginning of February, I ended up in military service for 2 weeks on the Pokrovsk direction. After that, we were rotated. Few remained alive. And after that, there was an opportunity to go to Sizok, because I had seen such terrible things there. When checking the possibility, I went to Sizok, left, and then, after some time, we arrived at SPA, again decided, but now to another brigade, the 38th. So it turned out that in the 38th we were sent to positions, rotated the guys, but the position was destroyed. And it was impossible to be there. Scary, because everything is exploding, KABs are flying, mortars are firing. And so, at the first opportunity, when there was thick fog, there were 4 of us. At the first opportunity, we immediately went to a safe place, in Mirnograd. We took off this uniform, started crawling through the apartments, through the same ruined ones, found civilian clothes there, put everything together, backpacks, weapons, everything in one pile, and then went down into the basement, found mattresses there, also clothes from the apartments, old stuff. And so we hid in the basement, and we were found there. We heard noise from above. I immediately realized that probably the guys had come, the military. I immediately lay down just in case to avoid unnecessary movements. Then some bangs. Maybe it was a grenade, maybe something else, maybe even 2 grenades. The guys ran in and said, "Hands behind your back." The guys surrender in whole batches. In general, they try not to go alone, Try to stick together and surrender at the first opportunity. Surrender to the Russians. I didn't feel very good about the command of the 38th Brigade because they threw us to the meat, simply to the meat, in encirclement, where survival is almost impossible. So it's good that it turned out that I ended up in captivity and am alive until now. That's how it is, because they say there that Russian soldiers are, well, beasts, but it turns out completely the opposite.
Russian military sources say these are not isolated cases, but a systemic failure. Entire Ukrainian units, they claim, are collapsing under pressure, with soldiers choosing surrender over what they describe as certain death. Moscow argues this is the direct outcome of NATO-backed escalation policies, designed in Brussels and Washington, executed at Ukrainian expense. As Zelensky lobbies European capitals and courts tribunals in The Hague, Russian officials point to what they call Kyiv's selective humanity. POWs, Moscow says, are treated according to international norms, while Ukrainian command allegedly withholds evacuation, rotation, and even food from its own encircled troops.
I left work. I had a little way to go home. A car stops me. It drives off and stops again. Show your documents. I showed him my passport, where to go. I said, I'm going home from work. He says, here, I say. He lives nearby. Here's your notice. I say, well, what notice, if I went through the commissions 2 weeks ago? This is not that commission. I say, well, the same doctors, the signature is the same. We rested there for 3 days, and then instructors came and started reminding us. Either therapy, running with pennies, with twos. They showed theirs. When the weather was bad, there were houses for us. We went into the houses, just wrote, recorded in the journal. Training continued, and then they said everything. Training is closing, you will be taken by brigades. Well, that's it. We arrived in Volgograd, stayed there 5 days, this is our unit, and that's it, and arrived in Donetsk region. We went to the training ground a little. They taught us to shoot, because no one held rifles in their hands at all. They didn't hold rifles, but no one shot, because these sounds, it's something. The commander lined us up and began reading the order. And all of this was filmed on camera. So, we had 9 people, we refused due to health. Well, they said, you are going here and there to clean Donetsk region. And they said, we will not go. Why? For each one, it applies, what? I say, I cannot due to health. I say, I have a problem with my throat. I say, and I cannot wear a bulletproof vest. I already go to hospitals constantly. IV drips and injections. We have our own hospitals, I say, and old hospitals. Everything is fine. 3 months, and then they sent us. They said, you will have to deliver provisions. Wherever they tell you, there you will carry. They told us, drop it, and that's it. And then go forward. Everything is bad for us. Provisions are not delivered. People are not rotated from there. What can we do? We can do nothing. And what can they say if they are sitting, who knows where, and commanding? He said, go to the garages and sit there. We ask, what next? We sat with a comrade for 4 days. On the 5th day, a hatch opened. Yours, who's there? I say. We are 2 here. All weapons were in the field. We came out with nothing. They themselves collected everything later. They gave us food, gave us drink, let us smoke. I chose life. I wanted to surrender. I wanted to live. For me, life is the best. And that the commander's orders are carried out, we will not. They carry out their own orders themselves. We have 4 seriously wounded, 200 killed, 300 wounded. They are not evacuated, no assistance is given. And people die, and they don't evacuate others who are needed, so it turns out, and no help is given to anyone.
Russian analysts say these voices expose the real cost of Kyiv's war strategy, a strategy sustained by EU funding, NATO weapons, and US political cover, but paid for in Ukrainian lives. They argue Estonia and other frontline NATO states cheer escalation from safety, while Ukraine bleeds. For Moscow, the contradiction is glaring. Zelensky speaks of justice in European halls, yet his own soldiers describe abandonment, coercion, and silence. Russia says it is not Western narratives, but battlefield testimonies that are now defining the truth of this conflict. As the war grinds on, the Kremlin insists the choice is clear: performance politics versus battlefield reality. And while Kyiv projects virtue abroad, Russia says the men surrendering on the front lines are delivering the most damning verdict of all, not against Moscow, but against the leadership that left them behind.